Well, the other question that I'm regularly asked is, hey Greg, I'm not artistic. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. I can't paint, I can't draw. How can I still make my baits look professional? And I want you to take me as an example here, because I'm a scientist by trade. And let's face it, scientists are not really renowned for being creative. In fact, the average third grader does a better job of creating good looking art on a daily basis than what I can. But I have systems and I have techniques that I use, and it makes painting baits really, really easy. Now, I have to say at the outset here that quite often painting your baits takes longer than everything else put together. It can be the most time consuming and the most frustrating part of making crankbaits, but it's also the most fun and the most rewarding part, and it's the part that I look forward to. Now, if you're thinking of selling some lures, this part of the process is extremely important here, because if your baits don't look good, it doesn't matter how many fish they catch, no one's going to buy them. The good news is you don't need a lot of artistic ability to be able to paint crankbaits. You just need to know some of the techniques that I use. Really, to be honest, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. And there we go. So I'm going to give you a few tips to get you started. And look, like I said, this is one of the most frustrating and time-consuming parts of making crankbaits. So there's a whole lot more in the masterclass, but we'll just get you started today. So the first thing is not to skip any of the steps in the preparation. And by not skipping the steps, I mean make sure your grain's filled. Make sure the wood's been properly hardened. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm using a Western red cedar blank here, and I want to seal the tannins in. So I'm giving it a coat of a tannin proof sealer, and I'm dipping the sealer so it goes on nice and thick. And what I'll do at the end of this process is I'll lightly sand it before I start painting, and it gives me a good surface for the paint to adhere to. Don't skip on preparation. It really makes a huge difference to the final result. The second really important tip I have for you is make sure that your paint systems are compatible. And what I mean by that is make sure that when you put on your sealer, you put on your colour, you put on your top coats, and you put in your clear, that they all work together. Because it's very easy to use paints that aren't compatible, and somewhere down the track, and usually it's not when you put the paint on, it's usually a day or two or maybe even a few weeks later that the paints start to react with each other, and you finish up with a mess that has to be sanded off and redone. And then the third tip is go nuts with masks and stencils, because this is the way you can paint baits and make them look great without having to have artistic ability. So what I'm showing you here is a really simple stencil that I've cut using an X-Acto knife from a piece of ordinary everyday old masking tape, and I'm just stretching it across this bait, getting ready to spray it using my airbrush. And you can see it's really not a very complex procedure. You don't have to be artistic. It's just a case of working carefully, being thorough. There's the stencil ready to go. And there's the final product. And you can see it looks really quite professional, quite neat. And it's a really, really simple technique. There are so many more of these in the Crankbait Masterclass, it's not funny. This is a very simple one. They get more and more complex, and you can get better and better looking lures as a result. All these lures that you're looking at now have all been prepared using stencils, using masks, using pieces of tape, pieces of paper, all kinds of items, really household items, have been used to create a perfectly good professional finish on these baits. Anyone can do this, and I'll show you how in the masterclass. And the fourth tip, there's no getting around this one: practice, practice, practice. It really is a time-consuming process. It really can be a frustrating process. If you undertake the masterclass, I'll go through it with you step by step, and I'll remove a lot of that frustration. And of course, all of the masterclass participants are able to contact me via Skype, and all of the masterclass participants are able to post messages and questions on the masterclass website.